Grace, a warm welcome in SRHM space and with the SRHM community. It's a great pleasure of welcoming you as the artist whose artwork is featuring SRHM's 2021 issue. Your artwork is covering motherhood, feminism, and sexual and reproductive rights through the lens of your artistic experience. Thank you so much for offering your art piece for our cover. Would you say a couple of words about yourself?
Sure. Thank you so much for featuring me. It's such a pleasure. And I think sexual reproductive justice has been something I'm really passionate about and I really try to advocate for in my work. I think that my practice is really about showing feminist ideology and showing kind of untold stories from a feminist perspective. And there's a lot about motherhood and about the kind of untold labor of domestic labor and motherhood. And is also, I guess a little bit about myself is I was born in Zimbabwe and I was born to an anthropologist father who went into the water sector, built toilets all over the world as in water and sanitation, and my mother is a child and adolescent psychiatrist. So I feel like these two strains kind of built in me a real sense of social responsibility as well as a kind of very varied and very creative upbringing. So we traveled a lot all over the world, and I think that my work is also about diversity of culture and also trying to figuring out where I fit, because I'm from I live in South Africa, born in Zim, but kind of a global immigrant upbringing where I'm kind of not from anywhere. And I think that my work is really about grappling with that kind of contemporary identity too. Yeah.
Fantastic. It's a very interesting background, and as you said, it's reflected in your artwork. You described that your artwork reflects a cross-generational lens through cultural transmission across national borders. What does it really mean, Grace, and how is it reflected really in your artwork? How can we imagine the artistic reflection on that?
I think the idea of kind of transmission across national borders is, in a literal sense, is that I have lived in so many different countries and traveled so much. So I think it's me kind of dealing with who I am in a very basic sense, but I also think it's about, I kind of see myself as a storyteller. So in different series that I work on, they're sometimes linked to like Greek myths. So I'll look at reinventing a Greek myth from a contemporary point of view. And I think it's like looking back at history, but giving a contemporary kind of point of view and writing woman back into the history of art. I mean, so I think it's crossing various like psychological and real borders. And I think it's trying to create a diversity, but also a kind of hybrid cultural identity that is kind of cross-generational. And I'm really interested in history and archaeology. So I think that a lot of my work is drawn from actual like historical events. So the stories will be about kind of re-looking at a certain event. But I also think that mothers are not really as represented in the art world. I think there's so much the kind of male, cis white kind of story of the studio. And I think that telling stories about motherhood in particular kind of add more life into it, where it's about a kind of juggling and a softness and an empathy and a kind of fragility that isn't really spoken about. And I don't think as represented in art history.
Can you, when you were writing the blog for us that will be featured together with this video, and we talked about your artwork and we really learned more about your work, you have an Atlas series, and could you say a couple of words about this series, because we couldn't choose, like you have so many fantastic paintings and it was a hard choice. So, and one of the painting, but we ended up not choosing, but another one was in the Atlas series. So can you talk a little bit more about that?
So the series is called Atlas is a Woman, and the whole idea is looking at the Greek myth of Atlas, who was a Titan who is depicted as carrying the celestial heavens on his back. And it was a kind of curse that he was cursed with carrying the heavens on his back. They're always quite punitive, the Greek gods. But I wanted to kind of reinvent the myth from a contemporary perspective, but look at all the things that women carry on their back, kind of psychic as well as literal things that they carry on their backs. And part of it was a response to the massive, outrageous rates of gender-based violence that so many women in Southern Africa experience and have been so acutely kind of made worse in the last year with the COVID-19 pandemic. And so I was doing a lot of charity auctions, and I started trying to think about how to physically represent this thing that women carry on them, that is both a reflection of their immense strength, that they're able to carry so much and juggle so many things, but is also reflects their fragility and how tenuous it is, and that it's this kind of the two different things that they're carrying. And so my representations of women carrying these things, they're kind of, some of them are quite grotesque, and so you can see actual things that they're carrying, and a lot of them are symbolic of other stories that link to fertility and like reproductive health, and some of them are more figurations of like this kind of psychological weight.
Yes, and those who are listening to this interview, you can see some of the paintings featured in the blog itself and also on your website. The art piece that we ended up to choose and invite to our cover is called A Certain Blindness. How do you think that this specific artwork speaks to sexual and reproductive justice from the African and the global perspective?
Yeah, I was really happy that you guys chose that work of mine, because I feel like it has a kind of universalism about it. It's this kind of anonymous, well, not, but it's a kind of white blank mouth that's opening up, and then the story is a bit like a reverse of a Pandora's box opening up, but inside the mouth, when she opens, a kind of song of color and texture and kind of explosion of life that contrasts the blankness of the mouth. And there's also lots and lots of eyes. So I think it is about freedom of speech and about different perspectives and kind of embracing a diversity of perspective. But I think it's also about the like beauty and excitement of being alive. And I think the mouth is such an important thing that is about advocating for yourself and about like saying your piece. And so there is, like in the painting, both a kind of a contrast between the two. And I think that it is, I hope that it links to my other work that is, I think, more obviously about reproductive justice. Yeah.
Absolutely. I mean, your work, the cover, spoke to us exactly because of this perspective. I mean, we are holding a journal, so freedom of expression that is coming out in a very diverse way. And especially, I think, in this very difficult period when our freedoms are restricted, connected to COVID and other issues, is so important for us. And also from the sexual and reproductive rights perspective. So we really very much appreciated the opportunity to feature it, and hope that you will be satisfied with the content that is coming out in this journal issue in 2021.
I look forward to it.
Thank you so much, and we wish you all the best, and we continue to enjoy your artwork, and good luck. Thank you.
Thank you so much. It was so lovely chatting, and thanks so much for featuring me. It's just such a pleasure.
Bye, Grace. Thank you.